Hello, and welcome to Building Influence. My name is Rowena Maurice. This is episode 3 of season 1, which is a deep dive into education. It's a collection of 10 stimulating interviews with creators, leaders, and SME entrepreneurs from around the world who have achieved considerable success in their area of expertise. And these interviews bring together the best strategies, tools, and tips that they have found to be most effective in building influence and achieving the goals that drive them. So, this show is for anyone busy crafting and creating to realize their vision. It is designed for people striving to come up with products, services, and teams. We never stop learning. We learn by doing, experimenting, and risk taking. We learn from the missteps and failures of others. So, this is the place for you to discover new ideas that will keep you motivated and strengthened by what you're working to achieve. Building influence is unique in that it looks primarily at how individuals, as creators and leaders and business owners, have had a significant impact by what they did and how they went about doing it. And the show examines 3 aspects of influence: their profile, their network, and their body of work. Focus on the small to mid-sized business segment reminds us that anyone can transform their dreams into reality. Although we offer no silver bullets, the lessons drawn from the experience of these guests can help you avoid years of wasted effort and frustration. And the bite sized learning enables us to start implementing these ideas immediately. My guest today is Michael P Toothman. Michael future proofs humans so that they won't be replaced by technology. He's an educator at the University of California, Riverside, professional project manager, and founder of Future Proof Humans, Inc. Welcome to the show, Michael. Good to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. So let's start by talking about, we talk about your profile to start off with. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey. How much of it was deliberate? How much involved moving with the flow? And are you currently where you intended to be?
To be honest, I'm shocked where I am at right now because I'm exactly where I wanted to be at this stage of my life. But how I got here was not exactly overly planned. I started out with a career in the United States Air Force, and that went very well until there was a time during the economic times of the early 1980s that they started having people leave the service. And so I was back out in the economy. I worked in the computer business for a while. I worked as a project manager where I led probably the coolest projects in the world. And then happenstance made me an educator. And I've been an educator at University of California, Riverside for 17 years. And so now I'm exactly where I wanted to be, but the steps were not very planned. A lot of it was happenstance. A lot of it was fate, but I'm really happy where I'm at.
Amazing. So what would you like viewers to know about you from a professional standpoint?
I guess I've never quit. I've gone through a lot of adversity in my life, and there's so many times I feel like life is showing me the sign, you're going the wrong direction, but I kept at it. And I've gone through a lot of challenges, but at the end, you're rewarded for actually getting out there and doing the work. I found that life never rewards you for sitting on the couch and dreaming. You got to open the front door, take that first step, grab life by the collar and say, give me.
I love that drive. Can you elaborate on one tactic that has enhanced the visibility of your professional skills and your expertise?
I guess it's my ability to collaborate. Everything's so transactional these days. Everybody's focused on what they want. But I've tried to become an excellent collaborator, finding the other people who are moving in the right direction, the same direction I am, and determining, where we can synergize with each other. Just a couple of days ago on Clubhouse, the new audio-only social media, they had the Educate conference, the largest online educational conference in history. And I had one of the blocks of time to speak. I could have certainly filled up that hour and a half with, my knowledge, but I chose to collaborate. I found people with skills that are tangential to mine. I had somebody who is an expert on the future of work, somebody an expert on the future of education. I had people who were neuroscientists, and collaborating with them, it was a much better event because we leveraged their networks, leveraged my network, and got everybody excited about the topic because they can see it from several different angles. So don't feel like you need to always be driving the boat. Collaborate with people who are going the same direction as you and leverage their skills and talents as they leverage yours.
That's a very interesting way to do things, because in my experience, often when people approach you to talk about collaboration, it's really about, unfortunately, how much or what they can get out of that relationship. I mean, the focus is a lot more on them. And true collaboration is really about seeing how you can support the other person as well. In the early days, when you were working to improve on collaboration, what are some things that you thought about that really made the difference for you in succeeding in this whole collaborative effort?
I am a product of my mentors. And so when I got out of the military, I was about like you'd think I would be when I was getting out of the military. I didn't have the greatest of people skills. And so finding mentors who were willing to spend time and invest in me to kind of help me polish off the rough edges. I'm a completely different person now than I was 15 years ago. And so that goes to growth. But like I said, having good mentorship. And all your mentors don't have to be alive. A lot of my mentors are dead, meaning I read their books. So being able to develop this love for reading is going to be instrumental to your success, because you've got to, if you're going to fight all the challenges that come at you, you have to have a lot of good information in your mind. You got to look at building up your reserves of information and knowledge, and this is going to inform your drive for moving forward.
I love how you talked about mentors being, the people that you've, the books you've read, as opposed to people that you might meet face to face. Because it's
Right.
hard sometimes to find mentors who will be willing to put in the time, because a lot of effort goes into it. In your outreach efforts with mentors, what do you find works?
I found it's not very productive to say, will you be my mentor?
Mm,
Because that's a relationship, right?
yeah.
And if it's somebody you don't have much of a relationship, or you're just kind of meeting at an event, that's going to be a hard no every time.
Yes.
So what I tend to do is I say, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? I have a couple of questions I want to ask you. Most everybody will have a cup of coffee with you. How long does it take? 15 or 20 minutes? And that one coffee can turn into 2 coffees or 3 coffees at different times. And after you've met a couple of times and they seem to be interested in making an investment in you, just basically drop the phrase, I kind of look at you like a mentor, and see how they respond to it. And this is how I found most of my mentors. And this is what I teach my students to do as well.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Excellent tip. I like the idea of kind of taking small bite-sized chunks in terms of the approach, and kind of, laying the groundwork in a way too. Um, what has been key for you in building a strong digital profile?
Content, content, content. First of all, you got to find the social media channel that really resonates with you and what you're
Mhm.
all about. Now, I have a place on every single social media in the world, but where I really concentrate these days are the ones where I can amplify my message, where I can build a platform. And that is LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and now Clubhouse. I'm on the other channels, but they just don't resonate with my brand. My tribe is not there. So find that social media channel or channels that are where your tribe is located. And when I say tribe, I mean the people who are looking for your message. Second thing is constantly producing content, constantly writing, constantly be sharing. because this makes a difference over time. This is how you become a thought leader.
For somebody who's very new in this journey, okay, hearing you talk about content, how would you kind of introduce the idea to them?
It's hard because once we look at that blank screen of our LinkedIn page or Instagram or Twitter, we're like, what am I going to talk about? So in the early days, don't worry about teaching anybody anything because you probably don't have much to teach. Document your journey. Talk about a situation that just happened and how you overcame it. Talk about what you're seeing the future to be. Talking about what your customers are asking you. Document the journey because that's relatively easy to do. And then over time, you can start looking at teaching people what they should be doing next and helping them grow.
So, just a little a further question on the documenting of the journey. Um, there's so many facets that we can look at. What would help to kind of, I don't know, narrow down to make sure that there's no confusion, with the audience or the viewer in terms of what should be documented? How would you suggest they move forward?
The best way to document is, just keep kind of a journal at work. And when you go through a challenging situation, take a few minutes to decompose it. What was the situation? Why was it so challenging? What did you do that works? And equally helpful, what did you do that was a total failure? Right? Too many people on social media are trying to be perfect. Don't
Yes.
be perfect. This is how you attract people to your channels, is by not being perfect. Talk about where you failed, what you're going to do better in the future. Because what's going to do is going to empower people to mention their own situations that didn't go so well. And that's how you build relationships. Social media is all about the relationship.
A two-way thing. It's not just
Right.
about publishing, not broadcasting. So you
Right.
yourself would have talked about failures and missteps along the way.
Absolutely.
Have you
Absolutely.
have you had, positive responses, support? Have you had to deal with trolls?
They're probably the highest read things that I write is the areas where I fell short of my glorious plan and I had to, tack the other direction.
Yeah.
As for trolls, you're always going to attract trolls. If they're well-meaning trolls, meaning they just are a little rough around the edges, they don't communicate well, I like to engage with them. The other ones I don't have time for.
Good approach. Can you share 2 or 3 ways in which you market yourself?
Well, there's that collaboration. When I first got started on LinkedIn, that's all I could do was collaborate. I started looking at who are the people that are already in my space of higher education, consulting, and such, and what are they talking about? And I got involved in their conversations. So I picked the top 6 people. Every day I'd go look and see what they wrote, and I always had a comment.
That's what you mean by
And
collaboration, in a
yes, I
way?
always
Yeah.
had a comment, and
Okay.
I would amplify what they were saying
Okay.
and provide my own backup experience. And over time, they saw me as an equal partner. And that was the genesis for a lot of collaboration, meaning collaboration on content, collaboration on events, speaking events, podcasts. And that's where it starts.
That's a very interesting take because, when I myself do this in terms of amplifying other people's thoughts, I just saw that as support. But actually, that's a unique way of looking at it, is that it's a kind of collaboration when we're all putting our thoughts in terms of a specific topic or content and kind of building up the thought leadership on that area. Is that how you saw that then?
Yes, because no matter how big you get on social media, when you post something, you're like everybody else. You're staring at it for a few minutes going, do people get it? Is this resonating with them? Did I make sense?
Mhm.
And when you can come along with an interesting story of your own that leverages what they posted, and you're able to give your comments and agree with them and give examples, that is great collaboration.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your network. What are 2 or 3 key aspects of networking that you consider to be important?
Stop leading with what you want. And I see that often on social media. And a lot of the people contact me, I know they're well-meaning, but they're leading with what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So work on building the relationship first. You don't want to be all about what you want. And you don't want to do, and people have taken this advice and turned it around by contacting me with, well, Michael, how can I help you? That's just as transactional. Talk about building a relationship. Mention something that they've written on social media that you agreed with, or ask some questions about it. One of the things I like to do to build a relationship is have them recommend a book for me to read. So I was talking on social media to this neuroscientist the other day, and it was really fascinating what he had talked about on his social media channels. And I said, I need to up my game on neuroscience. And so I said, recommend me a book. And so he recommended two, which I promptly bought. So now we have the basis for conversation because he recommended a book. He'll check in with me, see how I'm doing. I'll ask questions from that book. This is how you build relationships.
This takes time. This takes a lot of effort, which, not everyone is going to be interested in putting in investing. What do you say to somebody who's very new to this whole digital networking thing?
What they say, 70% of success is showing up, just getting on the channel and engage with people. Answer questions, post a couple of comments to people that are talking about things you're interested in. Just get yourself in the habit of being there every day. And over the next couple of months, you'll see areas where you can amplify someone else or present your own ideas. It just takes time. And I think a lot of people who walk away from, building their platform on social media, they quit too soon. Mm-hmm. They don't think they're very interesting. They think they're kind of boring. That was me for years. And I don't think they have much to share. But you'd be amazed once you're out there, once you're actually producing content, making sound comments, talking about what you're going through in your industry, people will be drawn to you.
So tell us a little bit about the size of which is your strongest platform? Because you mentioned 3 or 4, right? LinkedIn, yes. Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse. So which is your strongest?
Right now, I would say Clubhouse. It happens to be my newest one. Mm-hmm. I just got started on Christmas Day. Of course, Clubhouse isn't beta right now. It's invitation only. And that's probably where I have the most followers. Second to that would be Twitter. Twitter is very, very focused on education and on future proofing. So I got a lot of people resonating with that as well.
Okay, right. What are 2 things that you've done that have helped you grow your network?
I guess it takes me back to, building relationships, finding those people who are in my space and commenting, posting really relevant information. For example, Instagram is a very photographic medium. It is one of my favorite places to be, but to be honest, I'm kind of weak at it. I'm still learning myself how to find the right photographs to go with what I write, but I'm there just about every day. And you're going to learn as you go, and you're going to learn as you grow. So don't feel like you have to go to social media and know everything. If your heart's in the right place, you're dedicated to relationships, and you're sharing, ideas that people can use, or amplifying, things that you've learned, or even giving us areas where you failed and what you learned from it, that's going to make you more and more successful.
I guess for many people, the fear is the trail, the digital footprint is that you make mistakes, you're new at this, you really don't have a plan, or you don't necessarily know what you're doing, and all of it gets saved, every single post. And you're not quite sure how that's going to be received. What do you have to say about that?
You're going to have to take some risks. Now, I completely embrace what you're saying because I'm a great digital pruner. I'm constantly going back and taking down things that 5 years ago seemed funny at the time, but probably would not be looked well if the archaeologist was to dig up my digital trail. So I completely embrace that. If in the beginning you're wondering if something is too much or might trigger the wrong response, find some trusted person you can bounce it off of before you post it. And I have several people like that. I've
Okay.
done a couple of posts on Instagram that were very strong, and I bounced them off other people to make sure they were not too strong, or I
Mm-hmm.
was applauding myself too much, which I don't want to do.
Mm. Okay, so that's a good thing to, that's a good tip. Um, Talk a little bit about your network in the sense of, what is your criteria for um, who should be part of that network? How do you make decisions about who you should connect with? Is it kind of, I know there's a plan, but can you share some of the processes or ideas behind how you formulated that plan?
When I get a friend request, the first thing I do is I go look at their profile. I want to see longevity. Did they just start it last Tuesday? That's going to be a hard pass, right? But I want to see what they talk about. Who do they collaborate with? Is their content nothing but salesy kind of stuff? I'm probably not going to be interested in connecting with them. People who show a little bit of empathy and are talking about relevant things to the day or relevant to their particular area of expertise, I want to embrace. Anybody in the educational space, anybody in project management, anybody in tech, other founders, I'm going to connect with those people. But I also want to cultivate relationships with people who are completely out of my field of expertise if they have a really good platform.
So that's relatively I mean, that's more in terms of the people who are reaching out to you. Can you talk a little bit about your outreach efforts? What are some of the consistent elements there?
So I leverage my social media against each other. If I see somebody on Twitter that's making some really good content, I go find them on LinkedIn because the 140 character count on Twitter is really limiting, but they can really deep dive when they go on LinkedIn. And if they are deep diving and they're talking about similar information, that's somebody for me. I want to connect with them. But I typically try to find the people who are, on Instagram, who are on Twitter, and look what they're doing on LinkedIn, where they have a lot more long form content. I want to see who they're connected with. What do they talk about? Are they showing empathy? Do they bring new ideas? Or are they just rehashing somebody else's, or just nothing but memes?
So in terms of, the time that you put, do you put aside time for this? Like, okay, this is 10 minutes a day that I'm going to spend on network issues, or how do you do this?
I do that now because, social media is an incredible time sink.
Hmm.
And sometimes I would just say, I'm just going to spend the next couple of minutes sprucing up my LinkedIn and dropping some content. 2 hours later, I'm still there. So I've really had to avoid that. So I actually have a timer, and I look at what times a day over time people are reading my content the most. And so I tend to schedule my content to be posted at those times a day. And I do that automatically in most cases, just so I don't have to get sucked into the vortex of social media.
So how much time do you spend on all of these channels on a daily basis, give or take?
Instagram, probably 30 minutes at the most on the
Okay.
days that I post. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn Tuesday through Friday, typically about an hour each day.
Okay.
Twitter, Twitter is so fast and easy. I mean, you can do a lot in Twitter in 30 minutes a day, which is what I do.
Okay. So that means you put that 1 hour aside as opposed to throughout the day, and that's it. You don't go back in.
If I'm automating my post, that's all I need to do because I have my post start at a certain time. Now, if there's something going on in the meta that I want to, talk about, if there's some worldwide event that I think I can weigh into the discussion, I'll jump in. But those are more infrequent than most.
Okay, excellent. Um, So we've talked about your profile, we've talked about your network. Now I want to get into what I feel is the most interesting part, your body of work. So what do you consider to be your unique strengths professionally?
Professionally, I'm able to take very complex ideas and break them down into very simple parts. And that has really served me well as an educator because what I teach at the college is very complex, but I'm able to take it and put it into bite-sized chunks that people can understand and also make it very actionable. Education without a purpose for it is kind of worthless at times. So I want to make sure people can walk away from every interaction, every class, knowing that there's something that they can do tomorrow.
Have you always known this about yourself?
No, I learned it over time, like we all do, right? It wasn't until I started teaching where after my first 3 or 4 months of teaching, I'd walk away from every class, my head down going, I did a terrible job. For my students to come to me, wow, that was a really great class. We really appreciate you explaining that. I never realized it that way before. And so that is what really gave me an inkling that I was able to break things down.
How
And
do
that go,
you, sorry, carry on.
and that goes to something else. Always be getting feedback from people.
Yes.
That is always so scary. And, if your self-esteem is not bulletproof, like most people, it's really daunting. But I always want to find those people who actually will tell me the truth, who will tell me that's probably not the best post right now for you to do. Or, I know where you're going with this, but it wasn't very understandable to me. So it was a rat's nest of ideas. Please clarify that better. We want to develop people in our life that will tell us where we're going astray.
So every time you put something out, you teach, you share, you find ways to elicit feedback. You put a
Yes,
process in
because
place for that.
with teaching, it's easy. Students are not shy about giving feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
And social media, people are not shy about giving feedback. But sometimes I want to share my ideas with people first to see if it's worthy of being memorialized, on the social media or being part of my classroom. And I do a
Right.
lot of testing as well.
What do you mean? Can you expand?
I'll come up with a concept on Sunday, and I'll think it sounds pretty useful, pretty impactful, and I'll try it out on a class on Monday and see how they feel about it. Now, I'll get feedback from them, even if it's a blank stare, and I'll refine it and try it again the next day at another class or on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll get that feedback and refine it. By the time Thursday hits, it's Shakespeare. Because you've tested it so many times, you've gotten that feedback, you've changed a word here, you've shortened it up, you made it more compact.
Tell us about how you discovered your strengths. Talk about your journey.
My journey has been challenging. I've gone through a lot of adversity, but I was able to come out of it because of some of the things I've talked about, having good mentorship and being open to feedback from people. And so it's been a very circuitous journey. I never thought I would get to where I am today, but now that I look back, I was taking all the right steps. And one thing I've always been able to embrace about myself is I'm not afraid to fail. I have made some colossal bad decisions, and I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned from every one. And that's really a key to success. It doesn't matter how many times you fail along the trail, as long as when you get to the destination, you've learned from your mistakes. And that's what I've been able to do.
What advice would you have for somebody who is afraid to fail, afraid to put themselves out there?
Well, you're not going to go very far because really our successes are built upon failures. You've got to realize that, your failure today typically means nothing tomorrow. It's just something you can build upon. Don't be afraid to fail. Iterate, iterate, iterate. Don't wait until everything is perfect. Just get moving on something. Learn from it. You fall down a few times, get back up again and learn from it and keep pushing forward. That's very simplistic advice. But the people who have made it in life, truly made it, are the ones who weren't afraid to fail. And they took this advice of continually learning from their mistakes and moving forward.
Are there any failures that come to mind easily for you now that you could talk a little bit about?
Yes, staying at companies too long when it was clear to me I should have gone on to bigger and better things. We always tend to do that. We think, and the days of the long-term employee are over. You've got to go where they need you. So I think that was a huge mistake I made. Not believing in myself. That was another one. It's been lifelong, is not believing in myself. And we tend to be very inactive when we don't believe in ourselves. But
Inactive.
we don't try anything new or different. When we don't believe in ourselves, we've pre-failed, I call it, right? Pre-failure. Let's just cut to the chase and just say I'm going to fail at it if I start it. And I've had that mentality in my early days.
No more.
No more.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about that. How did you overcome that?
By thinking back upon my failures and going, well, what really happened? Somebody got mad at me. I didn't do my best. People, a couple of people lost, confidence in me. I didn't make the money I thought I was going to make. I fell on my face a few times. But in the grand scheme of things, everything was overcome by events. Nothing has been that catastrophic. It's catastrophic when it happens, but 4 or 5 weeks later, nobody remembers. And so once I had that mindset that, okay, I may fail today, but who's going to remember in the future? And then concentrate on amplifying the things you did do well, that makes all the difference. Don't be afraid to fail.
What can you talk about how you've built on the strengths that you have?
I am a teacher at heart. And once I realized that, I realized teachers are always teaching. So rather than create a Michael P Toothman that's a glib speaker or a power networker, I created a Michael P Toothman that was teaching, but not teaching in a way of sit down, little children, let me tell you what you need to be doing, but sharing experiences and portraying them in a way that people can draw their own conclusions from them. And being able to be sort of a traffic cop of directing people to the right resources to help them. And that's really made a big difference. People are not coming to me because I'm brilliant. They come to me because I know how to help them find their own way and to build their own destiny and to make their own initial forays into social media and to building their platform.
So in terms of helping people, in terms of teaching, how can we see the tangible aspects of this? We're looking at social media, your posts, we're looking at articles you write, interviews that you've given, perhaps?
So I was looking on Instagram just the other day, and somebody posted on their stories, and they tagged me, and they had a book I recommended to them a year ago. And they posted about how I recommended this book, and it changed their life. Now, in reality, the book changed their life. I'm just a conduit for it. But that's very powerful, that you've been able to make a difference in somebody's life like that. I have students contact me all the time, reminding me of something I taught in the classroom, something I taught them, or some advice I gave them offline that has changed the direction of their life. That, to me, is worth everything.
In the course of your journey in refining this body of work of yours, what are some of the stumbling blocks that you've come across that you can share?
I guess most of the stumbling blocks you come across are all mental, believing you're not really making a difference. You don't have anything of value to share. Your content is boring. And we all have that. And it's none of it's true, right? There's social media is large enough. There's people out there looking for what you write. Or if they're not even entranced by what you're writing, they're very excited about you or willing to share. And so it's inactivity. You got to get off the couch and start doing something. Find that social media channel that resonates with you and just start producing. See what people resonate with. Follow people who have similar interests to you. See what they talk about. Put your own spin to it. That is really how you create a platform. So we hold ourselves back by, I think, the opinion we have of ourselves. And sometimes it's our inner circle that holds us back.
Inner circle. So tell us a little bit about how we can make sure that we've got the right people around us.
Well, the old saying is you are the average of your 5 closest friends.
Yes.
And so that is totally true. But the key is, are the people around you, are they supporting you? Are they giving you sound advice? Are they helping you to collaborate? Are they opening the doors to new opportunities? Or are they holding you back? I have found so many great people out there that their inner circle is holding them back. We as humans, we tend to attract to ourselves people who think about us the way we think about us. And so a lot of times our inner circle, we've surrounded ourselves with people who think of us negatively about us as we think about ourselves. So it's really important to evaluate every year or so your inner circle. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people whose relationship serves you and that you serve them.
That can be hard, when you have a certain mental, you have an attitude about yourself internally, and what your inner circle is doing is really amplifying that thought process. You've got to jump out of it first in order to recognize that inner circle is no longer, doing what it should do. How did you overcome some of these hurdles then?
By understanding that many of the people in my inner circle were nobody I wanted to be. Your inner circle should consist of people who support you, but are also where you want to be. They should be reaching that hand down to help you. And so, every couple of years, I look at the people in my inner circle, the people I trust, which are very few, and decide, well, what's our relationship? Is it hindering me? Is it helping me? Am I hindering them? Am I helping them? Reevaluate these relationships every couple of years. Make sure the people that are closest to you are your biggest supporters. Because if they don't support you, who will?
Removing them from the inner circle, does that pose many challenges?
Not in our modern digital world, right? You're just not as quick to respond to the messages. You just aren't as eager to go out and hang out and have a beer or a coffee with them.
They pick up after some time.
Yeah, you have to surround yourself with people who are where you are at in your own life. And we grow and evolve over time, or at least we should be. Find the people who are where you're at, but are wanting to move forward, or who are at the destination place that you want to be.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your body of work. Okay, we want to talk about, especially for people who haven't come across you yet in any of these social channels. How have you built up your body of work? Talk to us about what it is, where it sits, and how you are shining a light on it.
I typically write about the future of education.
Okay.
And so that is my main focus right now, is the future of education. Not so much the future of schools in particular, but the future of training humans. And I came up with this idea of future-proofing humans a couple of years ago. A good friend of mine coined the word. And what I'm about as an educator, as a project manager, as someone on my social channels, is all about future-proofing. The half-life of our skills is a lot shorter than we think. And so I'm dedicated to this idea of teaching people those skills that are going to be future-proof. They're going to constantly be useful in a world of changing technology.
And last question on this is, what tips can you share about beginning that process of building a body of work?
Find that one social channel, start writing, follow the people who are in your area of expertise or area of interest. See what they write about. Put your own personal spin on it. Dedicate yourself to 3 times a week you're going to post. Don't sit there and stare at it for 30 minutes hoping somebody will like it. Probably nobody at first. You got to build your tribe, but you got to get in the habit of sharing. You got to be out there. You got to get in the game.
At what point in your journey did you feel that you had, things had tipped over and it you needed to put less effort in? I mean, you're still doing the work, but you've already got the tribe. You've got enough of you know, the
When
size
I
is
start,
there.
when I started getting contacted by journalists that talk about my expertise for news programs and articles and Forbes and Entrepreneur and such, I knew I was moving in the right direction.
So from the time you started till that point, how many years are we talking about?
4.
4.
4.
Okay. So if there are viewers that are keen to get themselves featured on Forbes and Entrepreneur, what advice do you have for them?
Write prolifically. Talk about what you're all about. Get on a social media channel. Cultivate a group of people who follow you. Make sure you're collaborating, responding to all your posts, to people who ask you questions. And it doesn't hurt to take the things that are going on in the day, the current events, and put your own personal spin on it based on your expertise.
But we generally stick to certain areas, right? I mean, we don't want to
Yes.
be, because we want to be known for certain things. So you
Right.
wouldn't get into politics or
No.
religion or anything of those areas, just
But what you
education.
want to be, what you want to be is a generalizing specialist.
Huh?
A generalizing specialist. And a generalizing specialist is somebody who has deep knowledge in one area, but is able to talk about it in terms of other areas and how you can relate to it and how the common person can run with this idea.
Okay, interesting. I'll remember that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Michael. Okay, talk about 2 habits that you consider to be absolutely essential to your success.
Reading. I know this is trite. Everybody says reading,
Yeah.
but if you're not filling your brain with a fresh flow of great information, then you get stagnant really quickly. And if you rely on social media for all your news and education, it's going to fail you every time. The algorithms control what you read and what you see. So you want to be the librarian of your life. So find those books that are out there that intrigue you and read them. Right now, I'm deep diving on the science of learning. I've read a couple of books now on the science of learning, and that's really fascinated me. But you got to constantly be reading. So that's
So
number one.
how much time are you spent? I mean, how many books do you get through in a year then?
About 50, depending on their size.
Okay,
Now, I'll
that's
be honest, not every book I read is a business book. I mean, I just started The Lord of the Rings again. Yes, I'm a geek, but you got to read for pleasure as well. But you just got to start, you know, battling in the form of great ideas, and reading's the number one thing to do that.
so is this a daily thing?
Yes. Yes. Getting ready for this podcast, I made sure I moved all my mountains of books out of the way so I didn't look like the lost librarian.
Okay. Any other habit?
Um, Connecting with people. I want to, find those people in my inner circle, connect with them often, see what they're doing, how I can help, building relationships with people. This is the worst thing that the pandemic has done for us in terms of connections is we haven't talked to a lot of people. We haven't been out. We don't have those face-to-face connections anymore. Now that things are getting better in most places, we need to restart this engine of, getting out there and talking to people, meeting with live humans, collaborating with people, developing those relationships.
Would you say a lot of your network is localized or more international?
International. I probably have more social media followers from the People's Republic of China than anywhere else.
Okay. Um, what has been instrumental in helping you overcome fear?
Do we ever really overcome fear? I always respect somebody who's completely overcome fear. I've never overcome fear, but that doesn't mean you don't keep pushing, right? You got to keep pushing. We're all going to have fear, and we all have different fears from each other, but we can't let that hold us back because nothing is going to be worse than being 80 years old and thinking about your life and realizing this self-manufactured fear kept you from being your true self, reaching your destiny. So I'm more fearful of allowing fear to hold me back than I am of the fear itself.
So if you don't allow fear to stop you, what are some things that you do that help you manage that situation? I mean, is it preparation?
To some extent, it's preparation. To some extent, it's talking it over with somebody I trust
Mm-hmm.
to see if there's any validity to my fear. Sometimes there is, but oftentimes there's no validity to my fear. But talking out with somebody I trust, it will help me understand that. And sometimes it's just I'm just going to post it and see what the feedback's going to be. And usually that works out a lot better than I think. So live with fear, embrace fear. It's always going to be there, but you can't let it hold you back.
Teaching, in front of a class, students with a whole bunch of people in an auditorium giving interviews, um, that can be pretty scary to be, front and center. Have there been fears around that, or have you just always been comfortable with the mic, so to speak?
There's a lot of fear until I step out on the stage. Then I
Hmm.
have none.
How does that happen?
I just feel like I'm having a great conversation with a large group of people. It's just one area that I haven't had a lot of fear. I have more of a struggle one-on-one with people than I
Oh,
do with a large group.
okay.
I'll talk to a classroom full of people easily, but just one person, that's more of a challenge to me. I think it's because everything matters so much when you're on one-on-one. And I want to make sure I don't say something and phrase it in the wrong way that isn't helpful or not have the right advice for them. But with a group, I have no problem. It's very strange.
Hmm. Okay. And last two questions. What are the guiding principles that have enabled you to play the long game?
I would have to say that the guiding principles for me have been understand what my purpose is. My purpose is to talk about the things that excite me and the things I feel that bring value to other people. If you look at it from day to day, you're going to feel really miserable about your performance. But you got to take the long game, not looking at how you're changing, one person or two people along the way, but the body of work. How much difference can you make in a 6-month period, in a 1-year period? Remember, it was 4 years before anybody actually found me and started asking my advice for publication. And I made a lot of mistakes in those 4 years. And I had a lot of setbacks in those 4 years, but I kept moving forward because I was sure of my message. I was sure that what I was talking about would be helpful to somebody. And so once you cut yourself off from that, you're not really bringing much value. And that's the fear we should all have, is being able to bring as much value as we can. So don't be afraid to step out there. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to feel foolish. But in the end, when you get to the end, you're going to look back and go, wow, look how much I've accomplished.
Any final words that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Yes, I would say take a look at your own life and start thinking about what are those skills, what are those talents you need to have 3, 5, 7 years from now, and start working on them now. Put an emphasis on things like critical thinking and learning how to learn, and influential speaking, influential writing. These are the things that are going to help you build that platform over time and be more of a value producer.
So there you have it, Michael P Toothman, founder of Future Proof Humans Inc., future-proofing humans so they won't be replaced by technology. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on today and sharing so much of your life, your journey, and being with us. Where can people go to find you online?
I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, typically either Michael P Toothman or MP Toothman, and I'm on Twitter as well. So those are the best places to find me.
Okay. Is there any website as well, or just social?
That's in the works right now. Right now, it's just social.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for coming on and being with us today. It's been an amazing chat to discover you in more detail, and I appreciate the time that you've taken to be here.
Thank you very much.